Good morning. My name is Ron Troop. I think most of you already know me. How many were here last week to hear Rob DeCoud talk about his adventures? Okay, one thing I want you to know about this guy is the way he can handle pain. So during Uberman, after he did the swim, the waves were so high, he had to lift really high, and he pulled out his shoulder. So the next morning, he has a 400-mile bike ride. So I rode with them a few miles. We got up to the end of the bike path, past Will Rogers State Park, and I said, Rob, what are you gonna do next? He says, I'm crossing the highway and riding up to Point Magoo. I said, that's a long ways. I'm going back to Redondo Beach. I left him at 12 noon. He rode all night till 4 a.m. the next morning, slept a couple hours, got back on his bike, fell, and got a big bruise, grapefruit size on his hip. He continued on that 400 miles to Death Valley. So the unique thing about him is, as an ultra athlete, he can really handle pain. I want to thank Sheila Troop for being the master of ceremony last week. And now I have the pleasure of introducing ADG to Michelle Nadeau. Also, I should mention on the Zoom, one of my fellow board members, Ernie Frazier, may be on. John Huguenin may join us later. He has other church responsibilities. So Michelle is our outreach and volunteer coordinator at 1736 Family Crisis Center, working out of our Torrance office. In 1979, when I first joined the board, we had one location. Now we have employees in 26 locations, 6 cities, and all over LA and Orange County. Michelle grew up in Hawaii, graduated from Pomona College in Claremont, has 3 kids, ages 29, 27, and 24. Michelle, what is your dog's name? Enzo. She told me that's her favorite chow. She loves yoga, and finally she found her passion working for 1736 Family Crisis Center. Michelle, the mic is yours.
Do I have to turn it? Do I do anything? Oh.
You can use that. I'll use this for questions. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I don't know if I need this. Do I need this?
Yes.
I do?
Yes.
Oh, for Zoom. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, and I have this. Thank you for having me here this morning. It's a pleasure and an honor, and thank you for your support through all of these years. Your constant support throughout the year is amazing, as well as during the holidays. You adopt 10 of our families for the holidays and make such a difference to families that would not otherwise have the means to celebrate in that way. So thank you very much. Like Ron said, my name is Michelle Nadeau. I'm the Outreach and Volunteer Coordinator for 1736 Family Crisis Center. I just talked about the holidays, and you guys do such a great job. And Deanne is here, and she's my go-to good to see you. Oh my gosh. It is and just to go back a little bit, it's like a feat of, I don't know, miraculous proportions. It's just coordinating all the gifts and delivering, this is to our offices for 10 families, and it's awesome. So thank you all for supporting that effort. I've been with 1736 for about 8 years. I love it. My journey, as Ron has said, I graduated from Pomona College. It was with a math degree, actually. I was going to go into something totally different. And so my journey has been a little circuitous, but I love my job. I love the work that we do. I love the people that we work with. And I love the supporters that help us do what we do along the way. So I know Ron had mentioned that maybe there are some people who weren't as familiar with our agencies. And I have a lot of time, so I want to just tell you how we started, how we've evolved, and everything that we do. So a little over 50 years ago, we started out as a community response to homeless youth living at the beach, specifically Hermosa Beach. There was a church community there, St. Cross there. If you're familiar, they're on Monterey Boulevard in Hermosa, and then members of their church noticed a lot of homeless children homeless youth at the beach, and they decided to take a house that they owned and give them a safe place to spend the night. And that house is located at 1736 Monterey Boulevard, and that's how we got our name. We started out as a youth shelter, 6 beds, 2-week crisis intervention program, and at that point, since the address is in our name, it worked for youth seeking, knowing where to go. It was more like, it's kind of like a drop-in center. Youth can go and get support. From that, I wasn't here at that time, but women dealing with domestic violence and abuse issues started to reach out. So the services expanded, and Ron, correct me if I'm inaccurate in any way, you have more history than I do. They started reaching out for support and services expanded to address that issue as well. So in 1981, we began our domestic violence shelter program, which was the first transitional program in LA at that time. Now we have 4 domestic violence shelters throughout LA County. Our services have expanded even more to integrate human trafficking survivors into those shelter programs. Our emergency youth shelter, that house is still there at 1736 Monterey Boulevard, but our youth shelter has since relocated to a confidential location as well. So that's in a different city right now, but it's still a 6-bed, 2-week crisis intervention program, and we serve kids from ages 10 to 17. All of our services are absolutely free throughout all of our programs. In 2013, we began a supportive services for veterans families program. That is based out of our Wilmington site. Our veterans team is amazing. Our director is a former Marine. They have their own outreach team. The beauty of that program is it's a supportive services for families. So once that veteran comes under our care, we can provide supportive services for the entire family. And those services range, although it's based out of Wilmington, those services range down to Orange County as well. At the height of COVID in 2020, we're very proud to be able to, we opened a shelter during the height of COVID. That's the only shelter that isn't a confidential location. It's for 15 beds for single homeless women, regardless of the reason for homelessness. So domestic violence and human trafficking, they're not prerequisites for entry into that shelter. It's a bridge shelter. It's the bridge between homelessness and permanent housing. So all together with all of our programs, which we'll go into more depth, but with all of our programs, all of our outreach, we reach nearly 24,000 individuals every year. We do a lot, and so a lot of people think we only do residential shelter programs. A lot of veterans in our programs don't realize we have domestic violence programs. So I'm here to tell you everything that we do. So our crisis and emergency services program. So I've kind of divided it. So I'll go over our crisis and emergency services program and then our wraparound services. Oh, good. So in respect to domestic violence, our crisis intervention services include, we have 5 24-hour crisis hotlines. Each hotline goes to one of our shelters. So they're staffed 24 hours a day. They are answered by staff who know about all the programs that we have. So if it's a veteran calling a crisis hotline seeking services, that staff member knows where to refer that individual. If it's a client, if it's a victim fleeing domestic violence or a dangerous circumstance, that staff is trained to do the assessment and the screening to ascertain where the safest site for that caller will be. Sometimes if a caller's calling the site most local to them, that wouldn't be the safest place. You know, if the abuser lives and works, if it's a South Bay, if they call the South Bay number, and if they're a South Bay resident, if the abuser lives and works in the South Bay, this may not be the safest site. So that part of that screening process is to figure out where that safest site to refer that caller is. We accept both individuals and families with children up to 17 years old. If a family has a child that's 18, they can just enter in as an adult. The goal is to keep that family together. Not all agencies accept teenage boys over a certain age. We accept the entire family. The goal is to keep that family together. So we do have a lot of kids, as Deanne will, she knows when she gets our wish list, we have a lot of kids on that wish list. And as you know, you guys all know too, we have at least, probably on the average, half our beds has a child in it. So we work with the kids as well as the adults to change the trajectory of domestic violence for the children, to break the cycle for them, and to work with our adults to be self-sustaining and self-sufficient. And if they need financial literacy training, a lot of ladies that come to us haven't had access to the finances or have been, you know, had economic abuse as well. So whatever it is that they need, if they need to rebuild documentation, if they've left everything behind and we need to help them get their driver's license, birth certificate, social security card, all of that in order to gain employment and exit self-sufficient and secure permanent housing. That's what we do. We have a DART program. Our different agencies have DART programs. Our DART team, which is a domestic abuse response team, our advocates are based in the Harbor Precinct of LAPD. And what those advocates do is they provide support to victims on site, either at home or in the hospital. They tell them what their options are. If at that point that victim is ready to enter shelter, they can help facilitate that intake into shelter. For human trafficking, so in 2015-ish, I think, we were asked to expand our services to be able to integrate human trafficking survivors into our domestic violence shelter program, which we did. So at that point also, it became necessary for our youth shelter, which was at 1736 Monterey Boulevard, to now be in a confidential location as well. At our youth shelter and at our domestic violence shelters, now domestic violence human trafficking shelters, we do get, you know, at our youth shelter, we get human trafficking victims between the ages of 10 and 17. The average commercially sexually exploited child is 12 years old. So we needed to make sure they were safe if they were seeking shelter. So we needed to make that a confidential location. See, the majority of, you know, and that's a whole subject in itself, right? I think there's so many misconceptions about human trafficking being international, but the majority of human trafficking victims in this country are citizens of this country. And so to really, part of my job is community education, to dispel those myths and to have people understand that it can be happening in our own backyard. Runaway youth, you know, our goal, and I'll get to that, I think, with our youth shelter, our outreach is really with like the schools, people who are on the front lines that see the kids every day and try intervention and prevention is our goal. Once youth run away and they're on the streets, they become easy prey for traffickers. So our outreach in regards to our youth program is to prevent that from happening, identify red flags, know that they do have an option for a safe place to stay. We have our shelter for kids between the ages of 0 to 17. We have I've realized, during my job also pertaining to outreach to other agencies to network with. We're one of the only ones that has, the shelter is just, I don't know how many of you, I know Ron was at the grand opening of the shelter, which is beautiful. It's safe, it's clean, it's amazing. The program is, the staff is so dedicated and so passionate about the youth that are in crisis. There aren't a lot of programs for this age range. So this is a huge, and you know, you think it's just 6 beds, but it's 6 beds that help to keep a child safe. You know, so I cannot say enough about this program and the people that, the staff that advocate for our youth that are in crisis. Like I said, so there's also one of the hotlines that goes directly to this shelter. All clients have to call themselves, and that's a hard part too. We've had people walking in. You know, our sister is in, there are 2 sisters that walked into our Torrance lobby one day, and they said she's in an abusive relationship, it's escalating, you need to call her. And I said, unfortunately, she needs to call us. You know, that screening, and so it goes with the youth shelter also. You can call one of our hotlines just to get guidance. You can say, I have somebody, what can I do? How can I support? But at the end of the day, the clients are the ones that need to call us. There are shelter, you know, there's a screening process. There's that, this is what coming to shelter means. And the client needs to understand all of that before they come in. So our youth shelter is usually pretty full. You know, the youth will call and they would get screened in, and our youth shelter staff makes it really, really easy for them to come in. They make it really easy for them to come in, and we will facilitate getting them there. Yes.
Just curious, it's a 2-week program. How do you know that things will happen in 2 weeks?
If 2-week-ish, you know, a lot of times during that week is identifying a lot of times. Sometimes home isn't unsafe. Sometimes, you know, if this is youth in any crisis, it doesn't have to be a domestic abuse, an unsafe situation at home. There might be conflicts because they're teenagers and they've run away. And in cases where home is safe, then reunification is that goal, right? If reunification is not safe, if it is an abusive situation, sometimes it's DCFS contacting us because they don't have placement for that youth yet, and they need a safe place. I mean, the sources, the referrals come from a lot of different places, right? But if it is a domestically abusive situation, if home isn't safe, that's kind of it's not a hard 2 weeks, I should say, right? Sometimes youth don't realize they have options. They have family members in other places. I know we had an outreach team who found a youth who was, and a lot of times most of the time they're ours. You know, youth will come back to what's familiar. And our youth street outreach team found a teenager homeless at a car wash a block or so away from home. And he was homeless because he had come out to his family and they kicked him out. And he didn't know where to go. He kind of stayed close to where he had contacts. And he didn't realize he had an aunt somewhere out of state that was a safe place for him. So we were able to, so a lot of times, a lot of that process is digging deep and saying, who are your people? Who do you may not realize that you have people, but you have people, and exploring every option. But yeah, if there's not a solution that's identified at the end of that 2 weeks, that's a soft 2 weeks. Let's see. So our Women's Western Bridge home, this is the only address that's public. If you ever want to go see it, it is awesome. It's made out of 2 storage containers, like those big mats and storage containers. And this is the shelter that was open during the height of COVID. It's part of the mayor's program. It's the She Does movement that is it's meant to empower homeless women, that she does deserve a safe place to sleep at night. So one storage container has been transformed into the living quarters. And those are, it's amazing. I'm happy to take anybody up there if you just want to take a look. It's near our Arlington office, if you know where it's Arlington, near the 10110 Western, yeah. It's called our Western Bridge home, so it's on Western. It's right off Western. But 15 beds. This storage unit is administrative offices, laundry, showers, all of the other necessary spaces to sustain 15 clients living there. The outdoor space, you can't see it, but towards the entrance from the parking lot, there's a really just beautiful outdoor space with a pergola and a long table for our clients and it's, so it's safe from the rain. Our clients can eat out there, have empowerment groups out there. It really is a very impressive space. Yes.
One of the reasons 1736 is successful with so many different One of the reasons 1736 is successful with so many programs is the Bridge Home is an example of where the city came to us and asked us to help. They had all these requirements. We had a lot of requirements. So we negotiated to a final settlement, and this is a very successful project.
Domestic violence is not a requirement for this shelter. It's single homeless women, homeless for any reason. We work with LAHSA, the Los Angeles Housing Services Authority, for referrals to us. So that's why it doesn't have to be a confidential location. These are women who are not fleeing a dangerous situation. These are women who are not being, nobody's looking for them. They just need a place to bridge them from homelessness into permanent housing. And yeah, this was a part of, there were other She Does shelters that were developed around at the same time because, yeah, they approached different agencies to support this movement. So yeah, this was a very successful development.
So I see 2 containers. Is it a total of 2 containers?
Yes.
That does all this? Okay.
2 containers, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It's very impressive. I went, and when I went there I visited the site the first time, and there were just 2 containers. I'm like, what's happening? What's going to happen? And then the progress the transformation process was just mind-blowing, and then the result is amazing. And they're comfortable spaces. Each one has like a fan, air conditioner or fan. I mean, it's just it's pleasant in there, and they've done a really, really nice job.
How many people does that hold?
It's 15 beds. And I think she's at capacity almost, 95% of the time. The only time being the transition, right, between exits and.
Oh, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
So are they carved up like, 2 beds in a little cubicle?
Depending on the space, so they're partitioned, and you go in and there's maybe the left side is a bigger space, or there are 2 beds there, and the right side. So maybe it's like a 3-person suite when you go in. There might be a single on this side and a double on this side. So 5, 10, however it's configured, it all adds up to 15. So yeah, depending on the space determines how many beds it can accommodate. So our wraparound and supportive services, we have services for our residents in shelter, all receive mental health support, legal, everything that they need to be able to progress, right? But we also provide these services on an outpatient basis. So we have community service centers in Arlington and where I work in Torrance. We have mental health support. We provide that in our residential shelters, and we also provide that on an outpatient basis. So sometimes clients will come, they need help post-trauma, but they're not unsafe. They have shelter, but they maybe just need empowerment, or they need a group support system because they've come out of a traumatic situation. So we provide that. Now it's both through telehealth and in person, but we provide that at both our, can you see, at both our Arlington and our Torrance service sites. We have supportive services as far as legal. Sometimes clients need legal services, help with restraining orders or child support or divorce. Our legal team primarily provides family law support. We network extensively with other agencies. If a client needs legal services that we don't provide, we can provide extensive referrals. But sometimes all they need is legal support, and they don't need residential.
I just wondered, could you give us a general idea of where the sites are located? I know you can't tell
The
us the addresses of
shelters,
shelters. Yeah.
all throughout LA County. I mean, the great part, since we have 3 sites. So our community service centers, which are public, where I work at the Torrance Community Service Center across from Del Amo Mall. So it's Carson, and bless you, Carson and Hawthorne. Our LA Community Service Center is on Arlington Avenue, near the 10 and 110 interchange, around that area, which is near that Western Bridge shelter. Our Veterans Service Center is based in Wilmington off Figueroa. And then our confidentially located shelters are throughout LA County, which really serves us well because, like I said, if a client's calling and one site is unsafe, we have options within our agency to refer them to. Although, we've had trafficking victims who have been trafficked all over LA County, and none of our sites were safe. So in that sense, that's also a reason why we network extensively with other domestic violence service providers. I think we were able to refer her to San Bernardino, but there are shelter support systems throughout San Bernardino County, Long Beach, Orange County. We work together with them. They refer to us, we refer to them if any of our sites is unsafe or if we don't have space. But did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just sort of wondering, like, if you go all the way up to Antelope Valley and all the way down to, Los Alamitos or whatever.
We don't.
and
We're all in LA County, but yes, we do network with. We work with domestic violence shelter support agencies up in Antelope Valley, going up to Lancaster, going out to going far out into San Bernardino, and then down through Orange County as well. And we have clients we have no geographical boundaries as far as the shelters go. We have clients coming in from out of state. They're fleeing abuse in a different state. They want to come to California for whatever reason. We just make sure that the abuser doesn't have any ties to anywhere within that shelter. But we have no geographical boundary. We have clients coming up from San Diego. Their case managers are reaching out to see who has space and who, we have a family of 3 coming up, and we need a car, just this family of 3 is coming up. We have an infant. Do you have a pack? So in that sense, sometimes I'm scrambling for a portable crib. We have a client coming in. The only way we can take them is if we have a portable crib. So we make sure that we work with other agencies just to make sure that we get that family or that individual to safety. We have housing assistance for veterans as well as domestic. We have a domestic violence rapid rehousing program. So sometimes we have moms living with their kids in cars. They would rather live in their cars than maybe come to a shelter. And Sometimes it's because of, there's a variety of reasons for that, but I think a lot of it is because of the location, ascertaining which location is safe. I don't want to pull my kids out of school, and if going to shelter means I have to go all the way over there, I think I'm going to live in my car. And so for those clients, we have our housing navigating, and that's just one example, but we have housing assistants that come to our shelter residents towards the end of their stay. Of a resident in shelter, if they're in our transitional program, which is an average of 12 months, during the course of the 12 months, we, like I said, provide whatever support they need. If it's rebuilding their documentation, if it's helping them with financial literacy, resume writing, helping them to secure employment so that at the end of the 12 months, they're ready to go into permanent housing, and our housing team comes in and helps them with that last step. They also have clients who are unsheltered, who just maybe need that housing support. So our domestic violence housing team helps clients both in our shelters and those electing not to come to shelter, but also needing that assistance. Does that make sense? And then they provide linkages to other appropriate social services as well. Our supportive services for veterans families program, that's a rapid rehousing program as well. There are no shelters, we don't have shelters for veterans. They won't come to a shelter. Shelters have rules, and it's hard for that veteran to be comfortable in an environment like that. So our approach with the veterans is housing first. Let's try to get them off the streets, and then at the same time or after that, what is it exactly that they need? What kind of, they usually have linkages to the VA already, which is a very complicated system, which, like I said, they have their own outreach team. Our director of veteran services is very versed and very aware of and very experienced in navigating those that system of the Veterans Affairs. But they are very committed, and they do an amazing job with our veterans. Yes. And which is also sometimes the question was, why don't they want to come to a shelter? Which is also sometimes a reason why clients for our domestic violence shelter kind of pause. There are rules, and there's curfews, and there's expectations, for somebody coming into that shelter environment. And it's hard for a veteran who's been on the streets, or a veteran who's dealing with other issues to be comfortable in a communal space like that. And I think that's what the research has shown, and that the housing first approach works the best for our veterans. So during COVID, there was Project Room Key, Project Room Key, in which our hotels in our areas participated. And through that program, and it's been really successful with our veterans to get them into spaces where they can be comfortable and still retain their independence. And that seems to be the best approach when it comes to getting our veterans off the street.
One of the things that has made the veteran program so successful is that, as Michelle mentioned, some of the staff, they're veterans themselves. And the funding we get from VA, they go to landlords and say, we will guarantee rents for this veteran and their family for X period of time if you take them in. And that's been very successful. Our first grant for $2 million, we housed so many veterans, the VA came back to 1736 and renewed our grant before we even finished the first one. So the veterans, and also I have to tell you, when you're trying to raise funds, people in America support our veterans.
Yes.
Do they, Is there a way for you to connect with, I don't know if they still call it that, but with Section 8 housing?
Yes.
Do you get priority or something? Because I know families are hard to get in.
We have a lot of, we run into landlords who refuse to accept it. So that's been a challenge also. It's not legal. It's not, they're not supposed to deny clients with Section 8 housing. But yes, our housing teams work extensively with landlords, and our reputation is great, you know, just to maintain that good relationship. Like Ron said, that they know that they're guaranteed payment from our agency, from our programs. So yeah, it's hard, you know, with COVID and landlords are struggling, I get that. But, you know, we have clients with Section 8, and to try to get them, that's been the challenge. Affordable housing and income is the challenge, but we do what we can do to get our people housed. Yes.
What the percentage of your, do you know what the percentage of all your clients are in terms of their residential? In other words, what percent would be from the South Bay, like Hermosa, Redondo, and Manhattan Beach?
What percentage in the South Bay?
No. What percentage of all your clients are from the South Bay, those three cities?
You know, I don't know. I can get that information because callers from the South Bay aren't necessarily housed in our South Bay shelter. I can definitely get that information, the demographical information. I have it, actually. I do have it in my computer because I talked to the Redondo Beach City Council. I can definitely get that for you. I'll send it to Ron. Yeah. I don't want to guess because I'm usually wrong when I guess.
You said this, speaking of South Bay, you said the 1736 house is still there. Is it part of your system still, or is it
No.
owned privately?
It's still owned by St. Cross.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not sure what it's used. It's not part of our anymore. But yes, it is cool to drive if you're driving past Monterey Boulevard. Yeah, I also place our undergraduate interns. If any of you know of any undergraduates who are pursuing public health or psychology or anything that need an internship, I place undergraduate interns into our shelters, and the best testament, if I may brag a little bit, but every program coordinator in each of our shelters started out as one of my undergraduate interns. So it's a testament to our program that once they're in there and they see what we do and how we work, a lot of them are already, I was actually at one of our shelters yesterday, and I said, how are my interns, how are they doing? And she said, one of them already asked for an employment application. And that warms my heart, you know, that, and a lot of them, that's why it's important, I think, for everybody, and for them especially, the part of their orientation is this. You're going into our residential shelter program, but you need to know everything that we do, right? You become ambassadors for us, you help spread the word, you know that now if you see a veteran that's struggling, we have supportive services. If you see a youth that's in need, you know, we have shelter. And that's what we all do together, and yeah. So these are our numbers, 24 hours a day. Each number goes to one of our shelters. It's answered by staff because, you know, our shelters are staffed 24 hours a day. So anybody needing help at any time of the day, you can refer them to one of our hotlines. And I think that might be it. And I know I have a lot of time, so we could, yes.
I got a question.
Sure.
What percentage of your income actually goes towards the work that you're trying to provide, and what's the percentage that goes to administrative costs and?
Oh, gosh,
all
I
that,
don't
do you
know
know?
the administrative cost. I would say all of it goes to the work that we provide. I mean, all of it is, I don't know about administrative, Ron would know that. I don't see the financial documents. Yes, and it is public. I think that is public. You can see that. Yes.
Also, if you want a flyer, we have a fundraiser coming up July 21st. 100% goes to our clients because the Troop family, we cover all the expenses. How's that for a statement?
Well, I can find the financial, I can send that to you as well, but I know those are all public documents. But, I would say funding for our contracts that provide, that are necessary for what we do. I mean, everybody that works in our agency is, oh, did I just turn it off? Everybody that works in our agency is instrumental, I think, that in the work that we do. And
One important thing I want Manhattan Beach Community Church to know is that the budget in the church sends $435 every month to 1736 to help with the food in the youth shelter. That is so important because as we go after grants, I mean, it takes millions of dollars to support 105 employees and 75 part-time employees. The funding sources are always impressed when they learn that 1736 is still receiving support from this church since 1972. So we're able to leverage and go after bigger dollars thanks to this church, which is very unique in fundraising.
yeah, donations go a long way, that, and even this, yes, like what Ron said, the monthly donations, the regular donations that we get, and also we have groups that support us for holidays, Mother's Day gifts, which seems like, they're just little bags for our moms, but every little bit that our clients get directly, they know that it's empowering, right? That they know there are people in the community that care, and they're putting things together and taking the time, and every little gesture that is made is definitely felt and definitely appreciated.
Do you have like a wish list that you keep active?
I do. Yes.
And where do we access that?
I can email that to you. I maintain an Amazon wish list. I have a hard copy, however you want it. I have a hard copy that this is what we usually need, but I maintain an Amazon wish list. Diapers, size 6, that's what we need right now. And then next month we could get size 6 and then next month, oh my gosh, now we don't have size 3s. So it's always updated. It's always, this is what we need at this point. I can email it to Ron, I can email it to anybody. I can give you, I don't have my cards. I can get your email address and email it directly to you. Yes. I can email it to Deanne. Yes. Okay, yeah, definitely. But that is always current. We can spread the word, but ongoing. Sports bras are huge, just are huge needs for our ladies who come into shelter, and undergarments. But they ask me for foundation. And it took me a few years to realize, it's hard to buy foundations for ladies, right? But the sports bras work the best. Sorry, men. I mean, you don't maybe understand, but the sport bras are more comfortable and they fit better, and so that's on that wish list too. And that's the reason why, because that can accommodate a lot of ladies. Yes.
Well, I'm just touched by the fact that these mothers, in spite of everything, still think about their kids and don't want them to have to change schools, and they'll live in their car if it means they don't have to change schools. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah.
That's
yes.
impressive.
We have a client, she spent Christmas. She's a CalWorks client. She's never been in our, I think she started out in our shelter. But we have CalWorks case managers. So CalWorks is the welfare to work program, like food stamps, but I think they call it CalFresh. Now, the WIC program you see in the grocery stores, the WIC, Women with Infants and Children, their EBT cards, they get those, their benefits on those EBT cards now. And it was cheaper for her. She lived in her car. I know she spent a Christmas in her car with her daughter. Drop her daughter off at school. She had enough money, not for rent, but for a 24-hour fitness gym membership so she could go and take a shower. And then she went to work, I mean, over half, in the South Bay, over half, I think anywhere maybe, especially in the South Bay, over half of our vehicular homeless are employed. They go to work, but they can't afford rent. It's just, and it's huge, right? Affordable housing, we don't have a lot of that for. So anyway, so this one client, she has secured housing. We're very excited. She's in the process of moving in now, and that's been huge for her. So we love seeing those success stories. But I lost my train of thought. Our CalWorks case management, yeah, we have our CalWorks program, and I totally went off on a tangent. I apologize. Yes.
How do you handle, if you've got minor children who are runaways, how do you handle that? Do you have any obligation to notify parents that they've been located? Or, I mean, I'm sure you don't send them home or disclose locations if they're, certainly if they're being trafficked or, you know.
So sometimes there's a police, law enforcement will refer to us. Sometimes it's the parent, a guardian needs to be another adult that's in charge, right? And it needs to be a partner with us, and we need to notify. So sometimes if it is a DCFS referral, then they know. If it depends on if we can identify a safe place, sometimes we need to contact DCFS. The circumstances are so broad within that. Sometimes there's a family member, like I said, that's identified as a safe place for that youth. But yeah, they have some time, some buffer time. It's not like as soon as they come in, we have to locate an adult to notify. There's some buffer time to identify what the safety issues are for that child. But like Ron said, that our veterans team, you know, and it takes a special outreach. Like a veteran won't respond to me like they will our veterans outreach team who were former veterans themselves. Our Youth Street outreach team, they're younger. So youth respond more, and they're more, I guess, streetwise. They won't respond to me as much as they would to them. So they know how to talk to them. They know how to identify what the options are. And they, like I said, our teams are amazing, and our staff is amazing. So.
Are they bound by any restrictions? I took a relative in, a young niece, and she called me. I called social services at that time, and they told me what would happen, and I said, not yet, let me talk to her and see if she's still on board. And but then they made contact with me. She could not be in touch with me, only one call to me. And then she was there for a couple of days. It was like, what they take him in like I don't know, and then a court date was set, and then they went in, but there were certain restrictions of what the parent could do, like she was notified that her daughter was with me, and she could visit in that, but she was not to visit with her alone because of the pressure of the mother.
So the circumstance, I don't know if I'm understanding. Yeah. So DCFS, they're saying there's certain restrictions that on mom?
Well, they just took it over. I mean, they just didn't leave
They opened a
there.
case.
Yeah, they came in, they were gonna open a case as soon as I had my niece agree.
Okay.
And then they said it'll probably, and then, so I called her back and said they are willing. It'll probably be today.
Okay.
And they were there when her parents came home from work and met with them, and it got ironed out, rough at first.
Okay.
But they're all reunited. Everything's great now. It was just a terrible thing that the mother didn't know was going on with the stepfather, and it was a mess.
Okay.
But it's all out, and they're great.
So she came to you because you were safety for her.
Yeah, she actually went to her cousin, to my daughter, who said, I'm not supposed to say anything. I said, yes, you are. That's why she told you.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yes, you are. So that's what happened there. But there were certain restrictions, and even at my work, she had to meet her
supervised. Yeah. Once DCFS opens that case, right, then yeah, there are safeguards put in place for that child. That's awesome, though, that it ended the way it did. Yeah, I know.
A lot of these people have worked. We have 3 kids in our family that are involved in helping in the health issue and children.
Yeah.
My whole time here has been with children.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's great. Yeah. But yeah, if DCFS has taken over, then yeah, they'll establish those mandates and those guidelines to keep everybody, for everybody's protection, but especially for that child. Yeah, that's great. Is there any other questions? Yeah, hi Sheila.
I just want to add that the youth shelter that is now confidential, I was allowed to visit it before it opened, and it is a LEED. I think that's really impressive because it takes a lot to become a LEED that's environmentally, whatever that term stands for. But it was, I think, funded by some movie stars or football players or somebody famous.
So with Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, yes.
Oh.
And the Every Child Foundation also, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Every Child Foundation. And so anyway, it really is a very impressive place that, you know, was funded. And also Seroptimus funds 2 shelters for, what is it, $1 a year or something to 17. So we try and support Seroptimus, and we try and support all the, that's why I attend a lot of fundraisers. We're supporting a lot of these agencies that are supporting 1736.
It takes more than a village. It takes, yeah, and we're very, very grateful. But yes, Jerry Rice and Steve Young, especially is that music room. There's a state-of-the-art music room in that youth shelter that I don't know how to, the music is sophisticated and we don't really know how, the kids come in, they figure it out, and it's amazing, you know, and kids who have, there's basketball in the back. For any meditation, yoga, there's a quiet space, so anything really that they want, if they're interested in the music and that type of outlet. We have art, books, we have, it's just an amazing place, so yeah.
If anyone wants to get involved, is there any kind of volunteer thing that people could do, and how would they sign up if they wanted?
I also place volunteers, so you can contact me. I'll send you an application. Usually our volunteers are placed at one of our shelters, so I'm assuming for everyone here, our South Bay shelter is the most convenient. Our youth shelter, sometimes volunteers at the youth shelter, it's a 6-bed facility. I had an art teacher from Cal State Dominguez wanting to volunteer once a month, and she would do art classes. And it's really at the youth shelter, if you have a passion for writing or art or cooking or wanting to just come in and do some kind of a workshop with the residents who are there at that given time, please contact me. It's, you know, the process for volunteers is a live scan clearance, TB clearance. We do an orientation, and it's pretty simple.
Can you do a teenager volunteer?
18 and over. 18 and over. But this one art teacher, she would come in, and I said, for the youth, I said, you could do the same art project every month, because the clients aren't usually there. You know, there's usually a different set of clients, but she said, no, I have to change it up. So she did that for a while. I think she did that until COVID hit. COVID, we lost a lot of our volunteers, but yeah, if you're interested, let me know. If you have a special interest, I'll send you a volunteer application. Who asked about that?
Michelle
Yes,
loved that
yes.
question.
I do.
Rich Sundin is a past board member. Graham Lewis, past board member. Unfortunately, we lost Graham Lewis. Delpha Flad is a current volunteer, one of our 200 plus volunteers.
Yeah, that's great to know. I had another question, and now it totally is gone.
Are you still the president? Yes. Ron Troop is the president of the organization, so.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
I'll make one comment. We're smaller now, and I think you told me once I was there longer than you, and I went, whoa. But we used to have 20 families. That's how large we were and what we supported back in the day. Now we're smaller, and I think it was you I connected with that said we have to back off some. But
Yeah.
we still want to keep this and make it work.
Yes.
Because it's great. And the young women coming up, the Humphrey family, you see them, I'll tell you, those girls, and they have connections. That's how they pulled all this stuff in last year, all those diapers and packages.
Yeah,
That's those Humphrey girls.
it's amazing. I mean, Vince, I don't know where he went, but he's,
They have choir. They're not walking. up
oh,
on you.
okay. No, I didn't think that at all. But when they deliver for our family.
Oh, my husband, yes.
I'll be back. He brought it, brings up a bin and unloads.
He's the best. He really
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
It's amazing.
How many clients do you have in total that are living in housing?
Probably 100 in our shelters, 130, about 130, 135.
And what's the average shelter's, number of clients, like in a living situation?
Oh, so our shelters, so for our bridge shelter, it's 15 beds. We have another site that's 40-ish beds, another site, and if I say ish because I'm not sure, I think they still have to keep a room, with COVID and everything, they need to keep a bed, a room reserved for that. 40 beds, 50 beds, depending on the size of the shelter. Youth shelter has 6 beds. We have both emergency status clients and transitional clients. So clients that come to our shelter just escaping, just fleeing their violent, their dangerous situation, their emergency status. That's a shorter term stay. It's maybe 30, 60, 90 days. The goal there is to stabilize that individual or family, make sure they know they're safe, provide for whatever needs they have at that time. Because sometimes, not all agencies have any emergency programs. Agencies may have transitional shelters. So maybe they've been accepted to a transitional shelter, but they need someplace safe right now. So they can stay with us on an emergency basis. We can help facilitate to get them to that transitional program. Maybe there's an option for them. Maybe there's a family member that lives out of state. That's a safe place for them. We can give them emergency services now, but facilitate getting them to that next option. But if there's no option, we also have a transitional program, which they can enter our transitional program, which is an average stay of 12 months. And during that 12 months we provide that mental health support, legal support, whatever it is that individual or family needs specifically to their situation, with the goal at the end of that 12 months to having secured employment and having that sustainable income, then be able to transition into permanent housing. So, yes.
So Michelle mentioned the youth shelter, 2 weeks. We started domestic violence in the early 80s, 30 days, but we found the clients would revolve from one shelter to the other. So we met with the county supervisors and we said, we need funding for clients longer. That led to transitional shelters where they could stay up to, is it now 2 years? 12 months?
I think the average is 12 months.
12 months. And now across America, everybody is doing the transitional shelters, which 1736 was the first to start.
Because of the importance of various government programs and your dependence on government funds, is it important to who we elect to our city, county, and national elections?
I feel that it's important to be cognizant of what candidates stand for, and to research and vote according to that. How's that? Was that safe?
supervisor district, at least for sure for 4 of the 5. So we always get their votes. We get their support. That's the advantage of expanding from Hermosa Beach, where you only have politicians in one city supporting you, spreading out through LA County and Orange County. Now you have a lot of politicians that know about 1736.
And that's where a lot of the outreach, I make sure I go, if an event is sponsored by an elected official, I'm there. I will go make sure they know that I'm there, make sure that they know what we do, and make sure that we maintain visibility.
And some of them did not want to take housing because they had other programs. Now, these were people who had, we have a grandson who makes prostheses and that, and so they had different things and help there, but if they had help there, they didn't want to get into another program because they were already getting help from somewhere, and it sounded like they felt it was a double dipping when so many have so many needs. And so I wondered so he chose this guy, particular veteran, not to go into a program and remain homeless because he needed the other worse. It's a crazy thing.
It is really complicated.
Yes.
I attend veterans events also, and when it's a veterans event, I always reach out to our director, our veterans services director, and just to hear, it's complicated. There's the VA benefits and then there's benefits, but I've gone to hear, and he's talking to veterans coming up to our table, and I have to confess, I don't understand all of that, how complicated that is. But it has to be easier, I think that's my takeaway was it's challenging enough to come back with all these different issues, both psychological and physical, and to make it so for it to be so complicated and confusing. And as many times, if I've been here for 8 years, and every time I go to an event, Ed comes with me, and I ask questions, and I still don't. I'm like, how do people navigate through these systems? And I totally agree that it's very complicated, and it shouldn't be that way. But I don't know. I don't understand enough to. It's heartbreaking.
Yes, it is.
That they struggle with that, and they have to make that decision between housing and a leg. I mean, that's.
You don't have any restrictions at all if someone is getting help somewhere else.
I think no. I think anybody who's seeking services in our shelter, come into our shelter. I think housing, our housing department works sometimes with other programs, like maybe the CalWorks programs from other agencies. We have our own CalWorks programs, but they help, they help where help is needed. So I think where there are contracts, I don't think a client has to choose between doing without. I think it's just a matter of which contract will pay for this and then what can we supplement. I think there was an issue with we can pay for the refrigerator because that contract, that other agency is going to cover whatever. So it's just a matter of we're going to get that client what they need, but we just need to coordinate, but in that case, we don't have to decide, that client's going to get a refrigerator with either from that agency or from us, so, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Michelle. We really appreciate your coming and talking to us.
Thank you for having me. It's good to see you guys. Yeah. I'm sending volunteer applications out. I'm sending our Amazon wish list out. And, okay. Thank you for having me. It's an honor. You guys, your support is so appreciated. Thank you for having me. And if you have any questions after this, and Deanne, Ron, Mary, my information's everywhere. We'll connect.